Declaration is imminent in Thanet South. Comedian Al Murray, who stood in that seat, standing prominently beside the man we are focusing on, the UKIP leader, Nigel Farage, who promised a political earthquake. Let's listen to the returning officer.
Of the election of a Member of Parliament for South Thanet. I, William Alexander, being the returning officer of the above election, do hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded for each candidate at the said election is as follows. Nigel Anthony Askew, commonly known as Nigel Askew, We Are the Reality Party, 126. Ruth Angela Bailey, Manston Airport Independent Party, 191. Robert George, we got the wrong one there. Graham George Birchall, Party for a United Thanet, 63. Robert George Bowler, commonly known as Abu Obadiah Zebediah, Al-Zebedist Nation of Oog, 30. Ian Driver, the Green Party, 1,076. Nigel Paul Farage, UKIP, 16,026. Craig McKinley, the Conservative Party candidate, 18,838.
And so it continues, a night and a day of extraordinary surprises, or was it? Nigel Farage, the UKIP leader, failing to take the seat of Thanet South. Craig McKinley for the Conservatives holding on there, 18,838 votes. Nigel Farage, the UKIP leader, failing to win his seat, as I say, in a night and a day of extraordinary news surrounding this general election. And you will remember, let's just see what Al Murray got, standing there, 318, so not really much of a dent in Mr Farage's vote. It means that the UKIP leader will be expected, because he said it, to stand down as leader of that party. He said he would stand down within 10 minutes. Well, I'm sure some of the journalists there, when they get to talk to him, are going to say, well, the clock has started counting, Mr Farage, and he predicted an earthquake, a political earthquake for UKIP, and perhaps this is one, but not quite as he expected.
James Timpson, Liberal Democrats.
So, and you can see on the tally on the bottom there, it's another seat then for the Conservatives, just 6 seats short now of that overall majority. Now, we normally expect speeches when all the business is done by the returning officer. He tells us about spoilt ballots and people who've put in more than one cross and numbers and signed them and things like that, all the mistakes that people make when they vote. But there you are, the declaration. Thanet South is a Conservative hold for Craig McKinley, has seen off the challenge of UKIP and Nigel Farage, no less, the UKIP leader. Another of the leaders now with a huge question mark about his future. Ed Miliband, the Labour leader, the biggest one of those leaders. We're expecting an announcement about his future. Let's just hear the winning candidate speech.
I'd like to start by thanking my wife Cotty for her constant support, and also my parents, who've always been there in the background supporting. But I think we all ought to thank my predecessor, Laura Sands, who's not only been a source of strength for me, She's served our community for years with great dedication. I'd like to thank my campaign team and the many volunteers from nearby and further afield who have given their time to make this result possible here. I'd like to thank the police and the returning officer and all of the staff and for the efficiency of the election here in South Thanet. But of course, the people I would most like to thank are the voters of South Thanet for putting their trust in me and electing me as their Member of Parliament. And since I was selected as the Conservative candidate for South Thanet, I've campaigned on local issues and national issues, and I've always sought to offer local people an optimistic and positive vision for our community. And as your MP, I want to continue in precisely that vein. And so on to Manston Airport. I will work with Thanet District Council, with Sir Roger Gale, and with ministers in the Department of Transport to get Manston reopened as a working airport. I will work with local businesses and central government to get my plan to regenerate Ramsgate up and running. I will fight against overdevelopment and inappropriate new housing.
OK, we're going to hear from Nigel Farage, I'm sure, very shortly. Quick thoughts of our political editor, Faisal Islam. Nigel Farage fails to win, expected to stand down.
Well, I've seen some grinning people leaving number 11. They'll be very, very happy with that, because even though the Conservatives, we think, are on course for a small majority, what could be more upsetting to the plans and delicate balance of a Conservative, small Conservative majority government planning this big debate and referendum on Europe than having Nigel Farage sat on the opposition benches? That is now not going to happen. Indeed, if he sticks to the plan and the promise he made repeatedly on the campaign in and around South Thanet, including to me on Periscope, he'll be gone by 10:45, which is in 6 minutes. He said it'd be 10 minutes. We've had 4 already. It may be that he finds a way around that and he wants to remain as leader of UKIP, but he gave very solemn promise that if he didn't win in South Thanet, he'd resign. So it looks like now UKIP's just got one MP, solitary Douglas Carswell from Clacton, sitting in the House of Commons. That's a very different kettle of fish to having 2 or 3 UKIP MPs sat opposite the Conservative Party at a time when they're having a very delicate discussion about the European Union. Perhaps also lessens the chance of a further wave of defections too. So very good further news, yet more icing on the cake after this unexpected result for David Cameron in number 10 Downing Street.
Well, you say, I mean, Faisal, they couldn't have written a script like this, given what it looked like even 24 hours ago. Yeah, I mean, and we forget about Reckless as well. Mark Reckless, the defector, that seemed to particularly annoy the Conservative Party. They were very rude about him when he announced his defection on the eve of the Conservative Party conference, and there's utter delight amongst Conservative MPs. Some fairly rude public words being used on social media already by Conservative MPs about Mr Reckless and the fact that he got beaten, and well beaten, by Kelly Tolhurst, and that seat's gone back to the Conservatives after just a few months after the by-election. But yes, Nigel Farage losing that seat, extraordinary stuff.
5 years ago,
and then Faisal,
on election day, I was in intensive care after an aeroplane crash, so compared to that, this feels pretty damned good. I do congratulate the Prime Minister. He has secured a Tory majority, something that nobody thought was possible. And there was an earthquake in this election, and it happened north of the border. It happened in Scotland. And I think what you saw were a lot of voters so scared of that Labour SNP coalition that they shifted towards the Conservatives. And that included some of the people here who'd voted UKIP last time round. But I saw another shift in this election, and I saw UKIP, the party, apparently, for the retired old colonels, suddenly is the party for people under 30. Particularly young working women. There is a big change going on in politics. And I think what's really interesting, we've always been here to believe that Britain needs to get back its democracy. We shouldn't be governed from Brussels. But what is interesting is what's happening within our democracy in this country. We've got a party in Britain who got 50% of the vote in one of the regions and nearly 100% of the seats. And we've got another party that scored nearly as many votes, 4 million, as won us the European elections last year, that has finished up with 1 seat in Parliament. And I think the time has come for real, genuine, radical political reform, and it's UKIP that will be the party that leads it. On a personal level, on a professional level, I expressed today a degree of disappointment. On a personal level, I feel an enormous weight has been lifted from my shoulders, and I've never felt happier. Thank you.
Well, intriguing, as I was saying, as far as Liz and our political editor was saying, Mr Farage saying he would resign within 10 minutes if he, as leader of UKIP, if he fails to win that seat in Thanet South. And you heard there he turned to the issue at the end of his speech there of, on a personal level, he's never felt happier. He's talked about the strains of the campaign under being leader of UKIP on his family life, on his health, but he didn't go quite so far as to say he's standing down as leader of UKIP. No doubt he wants to consult with other colleagues, but he also there talking about voting reform. You'll have heard him say, and you can see on the bottom right of your screens there, 10% of the vote for UKIP, but only 1 MP, and he pointed out the contrast to Scotland, where